Good evening and welcome to Mrs. Spencer's Math Lab. We're glad to have you today. And if this is your first time, I'd like for you to know that first of all, you need to turn up your volume. Secondly, you need to get the picture larger so that you can see the board well. Last week someone said they didn't see the board well, but everybody who enlarged their pictures saw that board very well. So please, I want you to be able to see the board. Get your pencil, your paper, your calculator for some things today. I don't like using it because I like to use this brain. But for today, for time, I'm going to allow calculators for some things. And get a mind that says, I can do this. Math is not hard. And for the new people that are coming in, and of course those kids are starting to school today, I hope this was a good day for your students or your children. And I hope that you will keep them up with what's going on in math as well as the other subjects. Now, if you will let me know what areas you need help in to help your children, I'll be happy to include that on my Tuesday nights programs. So let me know if there's something particularly that you need help with for your child, and I'll be happy to discuss that. Also, you may do private tutoring with me for a small fee, and that will be beneficial because that'll just be your child and me, and we can work one-on-one, and that's usually very profitable. So with all that said, let's go to today's lesson, multiplication, one of our 4 operations, basic operations. You said multiplication. Yes, there are different forms of multiplication, and tonight I would like to deal with those so that you can understand what each one of these processes is. It's all about multiplication. So suppose I told you to add 20 ones. Well, if you know the relationship between multiplication and addition, you would say, I don't need to add 22s. I don't need to write 22s down and add them because all I have to do is multiply 2 times 20. And I will have the product. All right, so that just gives you a review on the relationship between multiplication and addition. Multiplication is really repeating addition, adding the same number a certain number of times. And certainly when you get up there with 35 times 72, you certainly don't want to have to add that up 35 times. So today, we're going to look at, first of all, we're going to look at some simple problems in multiplication and just the basic multiplication. So I'm going to start out from simple. All right, let's do number 1. Let's do 23 times 2. And I use small numbers, easy numbers, because I don't want the numbers to be a problem. We are working on concepts and processes, so I make the numbers easy so that you can do this. All right, over here is my little worksheet. All right, and you can do the same thing. All right, so what we have here, this is the multiplication, and I don't see that said too much now, but this is the multiplier. And the answer is the product. And I still believe in talking math because it's important to know the language. So the first thing, and multiplication goes this way. Please remember that. From the ones to the tens to the hundreds and so on, depending on your problem. I had a student that always confused it and wanted to start with the first numbers. We always start with the ones and go left. All right? So what do we do to solve this problem? The first thing is 2 times 3 and that is 6. So we write 6 in the ones column, okay? And remember, place value is important in multiplication. If you don't place it correctly, you can't add it, because you can't add ones and tens. You have to add tens to tens and ones to ones and hundreds to hundreds, just like you do when you're just simply adding. All right, the next step would be 2 times 2, and that equals 4. So that's an easy problem, just reviewing multiplication. So each number in the multiplication has to be multiplied by the multiplier here. All right, so let's do 1. Let's do 1 a little more involved. Let's do 25 times 16. Okay, so this time we have 2 two-digit numbers instead of 1. All right, so setting that up, we have, I'm going to put the 16 at the top merely because I know that most of you can multiply by 2s and 5s. And again, I don't want the numbers to be a problem. All right, so how do we do this problem? All right, we have 5 and 2. So we have to multiply each digit in the 16 by both of those. And let's see how that goes. First thing we have is 5 times 6. And of course that equals 30. All right. All right, now this is 1 1 and 3 tens. So I can put the 0 here, but I can't put that 3 here. I have to put it in the tens place. And I'm going to put a plus sign because I'm going to have to add that when I multiply again. 5 times 1 is 5. And then I have to add that 5 plus 3 equals 8. So I put the 8 here. Okay. Now we can finish with the 5. We now multiply by 2. 2 times 6 equals 12. Again. Okay. One other thing I want to know. We are not really multiplying by 2. Let me show you something. We're not really multiplying by 2 because 2 is in tens place. So that really represents 20. So we know that we're going to have a 0 here in ones place. So I'm going to put it here. I've heard so many explanations for that that really disturb me. I've heard teachers say, just put it there for a placeholder. That is not a placeholder. That is because the 2 is in tens place. It represents 20. And you're going to have a 0 in ones place. I've had other students that come to me and they said the teacher told them just put an X there. That is not mathematical. An X doesn't belong there. We are multiplying by 20. So this is not a placeholder. This is a part of the product. But we know it's going to be a 0, so we don't need to multiply by it. When you multiply by 10, you're always going to have any multiple of 10. You're always going to have a 0 in ones place. Now we can simply multiply by the 2. 2 times 6. And then I'm going to do this in parentheses because this is what it really was. Okay, 2 times 6 is 12. Write your 2. Okay. And write the 1. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. And I'm going to erase this because I should have put that up a little higher so it wouldn't all get up there. I'm through with that one. All right. 2 times 6 is 12. I write my 2 and carry it, and I have what? I carry it over. Okay, 2 times 6 is 12. And then 2 times 1 is 2 and 1 is 3. 2 times 6 is 32. All right? And now we add these are partial products. And we add 0, 8 and 2 is 10. And we carry the 1. 1 and 3 is 4. So we got 400. All right? Going back to it, the 0 here is not a placeholder. It's a part of the product. And if we multiply by 100, we're going to have 2 zeros. If we multiply by thousands, we're going to have 3 zeros. So that these numbers line up. Ones under ones, tens under tens, hundreds under hundreds. And that's what that's about. All right? Let's see one more. And I'm going to see if you can do it. Do not use your calculator. I'm working on skills right now. There is a point that I'm going to say, use your calculators to save time. But not yet. So let's not do that. If you do that, you're cheating yourself from learning the real process. All right, this time, let's do 32 times 14. I'm making the number simple because, all right, so what do we do here? 4 times 2, and let me put this is my little worksheet. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 ones. 4 times 3 equals 12. All right. All right. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 3 is 3. These are partial products, and we're going to add. All right? I put my 0 here because I multiplied not by 1, but by what? 10. So this really is 10. That 1 represents 10 because it's in 10's place. So we have a 0. That's not a placeholder. That's a part of the product. I want to say that because sometimes we get to manipulating, and it's right when we get the answer, but we haven't been mathematically doing it. Let's keep the math working. All right, we have 8, 4, 4. All right. All right, so that's the regular multiplication. I'm going to give you 1, and I want you to do it. And if your child is looking, I want them to do it. All right, I'm going to give you 1, and that's 7 times 5. Fives are easy because students know their fives early. All right, and I'm going to give you 52 times 14. All right, and I'm going to give you a moment to work with those. And let's remember that zeros are not placeholders, and let's remember that each digit in the multiplier multiplies each. So here I know I'm going to have 2 multiplications. Here I know I'm going to have 4 because I have actually four different digits here. 2 in the multiplier and 2 in the multiplicand. All right, I'll wait a moment while you work on that because we're going to go from that to another form of multiplication in a moment. And that's one that parents are talking about quite a bit because they are saying that they never had that in school. And I didn't either. I didn't either. All right. Are you working on that? And you can always check it with your calculator at the end. Okay. Now, it's important that you know your tables. And sometimes students, they don't rehearse it as much or practice it as much in school. But parents, you need to get some flashcards and work with your children so that they can say these tables quickly. They can't pass tests if they got to figure it out every time. Sure, I can do it by multiplying, by doing my fives. I could add 7 5s and get the answer, but that takes much longer. I could add 4 5s and get the answer, but that takes longer. So practice with your children. Get some flashcards. Then give them little tasks to see how long it takes them to do it. Because you don't have time on tests to figure them out. You need to know them. Just like they knew their tens. If I say tens, they can rattle it off. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. If I say twos, they can rattle it off. But if I say threes, they got to keep adding it. Learn your threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Go on. Just like that. And if they practice, they can do it just like I'm doing it. I'm not doing anything special. It's just that I've learned them. So let them learn them. All right, so 5 times 7. Okay, and those of you in the early grades, you probably saying 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And that's all right. All right, write the 5 and carry 3, because 35 is 5 in 1's place and 3 in 10's place. Put a little plus sign there to remind you that you add that after you do the next multiplication. All right, next is 5 times 4 equals 20. And you may be in a lower grade and you might have to say 5, 10, 15, 20. That's good. All right, plus, then don't forget 20 plus 23 plus 3. 20 plus 3 equals 23. So my product is 235. All right, this one, this time has more steps to it because we have 2 multipliers and 2 in the multiplicand. All right, so first we're going to have, and I'll write it under, and they write the problems like that, parents and students. But when you're working with it, make it vertical rather than horizontal. It's easy to keep the numbers in their right places, and it's easy for you to remember where they belong. All right, so that was 52. What did I have?
14.
Times 14. All right, 52 times 14. All right, so we're multiplying by 4s. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 in 1's place. 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, 4 times 5 is 20. Okay. All right. Now, 1 times 2, I don't even hardly need to write that, is 2. Okay, but before I remember that I'm multiplying by 10 because 1 is in 10's place, so I need a 0 in 1's place. Don't forget that. If you misplace it, your numbers are in the wrong place and the answers will be incorrect. All right, so 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 5 is 5. These are your partial products. Add them. 8, 2, 7. That's easy. That's easy. That's very easy. And that's what most parents have been taught. That's what I was taught. But the next one we're going to is another process, but it's still multiplication. As I said in the beginning, there are several forms of multiplication that we can do. So this time, we're going to do what is called box multiplication. Box multiplication. All right, box multiplication. My writing is terrible tonight. Okay, box multiplication. All right, so it's got something to do with a box. Okay, so let's do the same problems that we started out with. We did 2 times 23. All right, 2 times 23. We already know what the answer to this is, because we already worked it out with the normal multiplication. All right, this time we're going to make a box. And what determines how the box is going to be made? We're going to first expand the numbers and see. Well, 2 is 2 ones. It does not need to be expanded. But this is always my little worksheet. 23 equals 2 tens, which is 20, plus 3. Okay. So I need 2 and I need 1. So I need 20, I need 3, and I need 2. That's all it is. That's the only thing that makes it different from regular multiplication when you really get into it. So it's nothing new, parents. It's the same thing we just finished doing, except you don't have to carry, you don't have to do any carrying this time, except at the end when you're adding. All right, so what are we going to do here then? We're going to multiply 2 times 20 and 2 times 3. 2 times 20 is 40. And 2 times 3 is 6. Those are the partial products. The next thing we're going to do is add them. 40 plus 6 equals 46. That's not hard. And just because they call it box and you put it in a box, everybody thinks it's something difficult, but it really isn't. It's the same thing you were doing before. You multiply everything here by the multiplier. And only difference is we expand the numbers if it's more than 1 digit. That's easy. And that's probably easier for some students because they get mixed up with carrying over. We add something, got to carry it over to the tens. So perhaps this is easy. Now, if I were teaching this, and this is one thing that bothers me, I would allow students a choice of which one of these they do best. Not everybody should be made to do the box. So that sometimes is a problem because everybody doesn't learn the same way. All right, let's look at the next one. Let's do 3 times 35. All right, see if you can make the box. See if you can make the box. All right, first of all, we got to expand. We got to expand 35. That's 3 tens, that's 30 plus 5. So, young people, when you had to learn place value, you didn't realize you're going to have to use it a lot in math, especially when it's something that you got to add. You always and subtract. And now in the box method, you're going to use it again to set up the boxes. So we need a 2 box. We need a box for 30. And a box for 5. And we need 1 box for 3. Okay, find the partial products for me. Do not use your calculator, because this method is made so that you can do more mental math. Because it's easy to multiply 3 times 30 and 3 times 5. So you do more mental math with this. So let's do the mental math. All right, you don't need calculators yet. All right, 3 times 30 is, you're going to have a 0 there whenever you have that. And 3 times 3 is 9. So that's 90. And of course, 3 times 5 is 15. Add the partial products, and what do you get? The same thing we got the first time. And what was that? Look at your first problems that we did. These same problems with this normal multiplication. So you have 90 plus 15. That's 5 and 10. 105. I don't want to say and. 105. Okay. So box multiplication, okay, let's do one with 4. Then I'm going to tell you something else about it. It's not hard at all, parents. It's just a matter of knowing how to set up the box. And the only thing you have to do to set up the boxes is expand the numbers and make enough boxes to handle all the numbers. This time, let's do the other problem we did, 25 times 16. All right? So here's my little worksheet. So 25 equals 20 plus 5. How do we get that? Because 2 is in 10's place. 2 times 10 is 20. That's the value for 2 in 10's place. 16 is 1 in 10's place, so that's 10 plus 6. Okay? So we need, I'm going to put the 16 at well, it doesn't matter. But I'll put the 16 and let you multiply by 2 and 5, because those are your easier numbers. All right, I'm going to put 10 and 6 here. Okay, so that's what I need for that. And I need I need 20. I need 20 and 5. Okay. And now it's just the matter of multiplying. Okay, so where do we start? We start here, here. Okay, 20 times 10. And see, you can do that, Matt. You can do that without writing it, without multiplying it all the way out. 20 times 10. All right, you got 2 zeros. Okay, when you're multiplying by 10, multiples of 10, you know how many zeros you have in the multipliers. That's the number you have there. And 2 times 1 is 2. So that's 200. And 20 times 6, 0, and 2 times 6 is 12. Okay. All right. Now we're ready to with the 5. 5 times 10 is what? 5 times 1 is 5. It's 50. And 5 times 6 is 30. So there are...
120.
Thank you. All right. So those are partial products. So now sometimes teachers tell you to put them all down and add all 4. I think it's easier, and you can do that. But I think it's easier if you would just add each column and then add the last 2. All right, so this right away we can see that this is going to give us 250. And this is going to give us 150. Okay? So now we can add those. Okay? Do not use your calculators. Just put them under each other if you need to. So if it's better for you to do this way, 250 plus 150. 5 5 is 10, carry your 1. Okay, 1, 3, 4. Isn't that what we got before? So the result is 400. Now you can use the method that you need to use. If you want to add all of these in a row at one time, good. Otherwise, what you can do is just add each column and then find the sum of those partial products. Now that is not a difficult thing. I think it was thought to be difficult because it was different. But this is easier for some students and than the regular multiplication. This is easier for some. All right? If you have questions, shoot them. But this is not a difficult process. All right? So, then we've done regular multiplication. We've done the box multiplication. So let's take another look at multiplication. So we've done those same problems, 2 different multiplication, 2 different types of multiplication. So let's start again. So we're going to do 2 times 23. Okay? Okay, I'm going to expand 23. And so that's 2, and we now know that that is 20 plus 3. So I'm going to use another symbol that really means multiplication as well. All right? So this is the same problem, just written in another form. So I expanded 23, and I have 20 plus 3. Now I'm going to do the same thing we just did. I'm going to multiply each one of these. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 2 times 20. And that is 40. See, you can do that mentally. You don't have to put that in a calculator. Don't get so accustomed to using a calculator that every time you have the simplest problem, you reach for that calculator. And that's what some of my students that I tutor do, and I make them put them away. It's not hard to learn to multiply. 2 times 3, so I get 40, plus 2 times 3 is 6. All right, so 40 plus 6 is 46. How easy can that be? So here's another method you could use as well. All right, let's see what happens if we do the other one, another one that we did, like 25 times 16. All right, as you may guess, first thing we're going to do is expand these numbers. Okay, so 25 is 20 plus 5. So instead of that, I'm going to write 20 plus 5. All right, times, and I'm using parentheses now. It's read the same way. 16 is 10 plus 6. We already did that before. All right, so now what do we do? That the same thing. We have to multiply both of these by 20 and both of these by 5. It's the same principle. It's a name for this, but we're not even going into that because I'm teaching it basically based on just multiplication today. So we don't even need to go into distributive properties and so on because it's just multiplication. That's all it is, and we don't need to dress it up with another name. All right, so we have 20 times 10. And of course, we have 2 zeros, and 2 times 1 is 2. So that's 200. Then we have plus, okay. We have 20 times 6. And we've already done that. That's 120. Now, we've finished with that. We've multiplied both of these by 20. Now we're ready to do that by 5. 5 times 10 is 50. I'm going to write the steps over here so when I'm not with you, you can see where we got all of this from. And 5 times 6 is 30. All right, now we're ready to add those. Add those and see what you get. Okay. All right, now I would do this because we're working with tens. It's easy. 30 and 50 is 80, and 80 and 20 is 100. We got 200 and 200, so the answer is 400. The more you use your brain, the better off you'll be. So, what do we do? Okay, we multiply this times that. That's the first one. Then we multiply this, the same number, times that. That's the second multiplication. Okay, let me erase some of this so that it doesn't. All right, and then we did 5 times 10. That was the third multiplication. And then 5 times 6. So everything, we have 4 multiplications there, 4 different multiplications because we had 4 different numbers to be multiplied by 2. 2 numbers to be multiplied by 2. All right, so that's not difficult either. That's another way to approach it. All right, I'm going to put a couple of problems up. Let's see where we are so far before I do the last thing that I'm going to do. All right, the first problem I want you to do, and I'm going to make an easy number, 5 times 35. Keep the number small. All right, 2. And I'm going to tell you, don't start yet. 5 times 35. What I want you to do, I want you to do all 3 methods with that one problem. I want you to do the regular multiplication, the box multiplication, and then the side-by-side using the distributive property that we used last. All 3. And you should be able to do that quickly. because you're doing more mental math here. So with some part of it. Okay, all three methods. And if you can do all three methods, that means you've learned what I have said so far. And then I'm going to apply it to one other thing for students who are in pre-algebra and algebra. But this is done in elementary school. Lots of things that we did when we had in higher grades are now down in the lower grades. So the teachers have more tasks to do on the lower level. Okay, so I told you to do it, the standard multiplication, the box multiplication, and the side-by-side using the expansion of both numbers. Okay? And all three answers are the same because it's the same problem. Okay? All right, standard multiplication is 35 times 5. All right, box multiplication, and I'm not going to put it up there for you. See if you can apply what I have told you. All right, we can do this one together quickly to see what the answer is going to be. 5 times 5 is 25. Do not use calculators. 5 times 3 is 15. Well, 25, I had to put 2. 5 times 3 is 15, and 2 is 17. So every answer should be the same. Okay? All right, the box method. Okay, we have 35, which is 30, and 5. So we need 2 spaces there. And then we have 5, so we need 1. Okay, 5 times 30. 5 times 5, 150, plus 25 equals what? 175. Same answer, just another method of multiplication. And the last one would be 5 times 30 plus 5. And that equals 5 times 30. That's 150 plus 5 times 5, which is 25. And that equals 175. Okay, was that hard? Which method do you like best? The standard method, the box method, or the one where we expand the numbers? Okay, I hope you were successful in doing all three of those methods of multiplication. And multiplication isn't difficult. What makes it difficult is we don't know our tables. But if you don't know them, write them on the side before you start. If you're multiplying by 5, just write them on the side so that when you get to the problem, you can do it. But you need to learn them. And again, I ask parents to get some flashcards and work with your children on learning those tables. Do the 2s and the 5s they have. Start next with the 3s, then keep going, because that makes multiplication and division simple and more quickly done. All right, so I'm going to put one of the other type up here where I had doubles. All right, I'm going to put up 36 times 52. Still sticking with 5s and 2s because I don't want the numbers to be a problem for anybody. All right, I want you to do that by the expansion method, like this. Okay, 36 is what? 30 plus 6. 52 is 50 plus 2. All right? So go ahead and multiply them. Now there is a way that we remember how to do this, but you don't even have to remember that. All you need to remember is you got to remember 30 times each of these and 6 times each of these. But I'm going to show you what the method is for that. I'll show you. All right, so first thing is 30 times 50. And what is that? That's 2 zeros. And 3 times 5 is 15. All right. Do I need to put that on the side so you know where I'm getting it from? So I'm multiplying the first term in this first set by the first term here. Okay. Then I'm going to multiply this first term by this. So they're the outer ones. Okay. So 2 times 30 is 60. All right. Now I'm finished with the 30. So now I'll go to the 6. 6 times 50 is 300. And 6 times 2 is 12. All right, were you able to do that? And then we add them all together. What do we get? What do we get? All right, now on your scratch paper, you can do this like you need to do it. Maybe you just need to do this. You don't have to do everything mentally. When you need to write something down, write it down. So I can do the 300. And then 60 plus 12 is 72. You do it the way that it fits you. All right, so I'm adding all that together. I put the 300 next. It doesn't matter what order you add in. Remember, it's commutative. You can change it around. You can't do that to subtraction, but you can do that to addition. All right, so we get 2, 7, 8, 1. All right, and as you get used to that, you have less and less to write because, and students really know today how to use those fingers. We weren't allowed to use fingers, but fingers are the first calculators that students use today. But I remember we could not use our fingers. We had to learn that material. All right, now I'm going to apply this. And so I'm going to apply this to something that we do in algebra. And let's see how many of you can make this application. Suppose I had x plus 5 times x plus 2. Do the same thing we just did. Last week we worked on exponents, so I hope you did that with me. If not, all of my videos are on YouTube and they're on Facebook. You can go back and review any of those videos anytime you need to. Last week and week before last, we worked with exponents. And we've worked with various topics since the pandemic has been in. And we are still working. All right, so this time we're going to do x times x, and that's x to the second power. Remember that from last week? And x times 2, that's 2x. All right, we finished with the x. 5 times x, that's 5x. 5 times 2, that's 10. Okay, so if you follow me, even though you're not in pre-algebra and algebra, it's the same application that we just did with numbers. It's just that we don't have numbers. We have variables and numbers here. So we have some like terms. Remember, we always simplify. So we have x squared. 2x plus 5x is how many x's? 2 plus 5 is 7. plus 10. That's as simple as we can make it. Why? Because we can't add unlike things. There's no other x squared term. There's no other 7x term. And there's no other numerical term. So that's the answer. How many of you were able to apply that? Let's do one more of these. Let's do y minus 6 times y plus 4. All right, now this gives the people who are in algebra and pre-algebra a chance to work with your sign numbers, adding sign numbers. And I already also have a video on that, adding integers, adding and subtracting integers. So if you're not up to this today, I can understand, but this is an application that students who are in pre-algebra and algebra can make. All right? So what do we have? Y times y is y to the second power. Okay? Y times 4 is 4y. And it's positive 4y. All right? Negative 6 times y is negative 6y. And negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Okay. Now I read this y squared plus positive 4y. And we know that subtraction is the same as what? Adding the opposite. So again, we have a little play on that. All right, so we have y squared, because we don't have anything to add that to. When we add these two, we know we're going to get y, because if we're adding and subtracting y's, we're going to get y's. All right, so that's 4 minus 6. That's the same as 4 plus negative 6. We add the absolute, we subtract and use the sign of the absolute value. So that's minus 2, negative 2, okay? 4 minus 6. All right, remember we did that sometimes, adding, subtracting integers. That's 4 plus negative 6. On the number line, we would go from 0 to 4, and then that's to the right, and then we go 6 steps over to the left, and we'd be at negative 2. All right, minus 24. Okay, so we have learned today how to do the regular multiplication. And of course, that's what most of us parents have been taught, and that's what we have done. So I'm going to put the steps up for the parents that were with me today, and they want to be able to help their students for the box multiplication, because that's kind of new. That's, as I said, that was not something we did. We always did the standard. So for the box multiplication, you're going to expand the numbers, then you're going to make the boxes to match, you're going to find the partial products and add them, and that's the answer. Then we did expanding numbers and multiplying them side by side like this, and we applied it to the algebra. I hope that you have understood this. It's all about multiplication, and even without going into a lot of laws and rules. However, if you're going to do this type, this is what they teach us in algebra. But you don't even need to memorize that. All you need to know is that you have to add, you have to multiply each digit in the seconds parenthesis by each digit, each number rather, in the first digit. All right, so we call this FOIL. So we do the first terms first. All right, so that's what we did. We did the 2y's, the first term in each one of these expressions. Then we did the outer one because we went all the way over. These are the outer ones. Then we did the inner ones and the last one in each one. But you don't even have to remember that. If you just know the multiplication process, sometimes we have so many rules that you get them confused. But if you need this, use it. If you need this, use it. But it's just like plain multiplication. You have to multiply everything over here in this expression by everything in this expression. Just like we do when we have all numbers. And multiplication is not hard. It's easy. The regular requires you to carry. The box doesn't require that. You're just adding up the partial products. And the side by side, when you have expressions, when you expand both numbers, just requires you to be sure that you multiply each of the terms in the second expression by each of the terms in the first. And so it makes sense to use the y with this and y with that. 6 with this and negative 6 with this and negative 6 with 4. All right? If there are questions, shoot them. If we need more of this, let me know. But I think multiplication is just the same all the way through. It's just knowing that you must multiply each number. Again, when you're multiplying with zeros, don't write 4 zeros across a product, please. Because you know that it's going to be a number of zeros that you have, and the numbers you're multiplying going to be the numbers you're going to have first in the numbers in the product. So I hope today multiplication has become a little easier for you and a little easier to understand, and for you to know that all of these methods are basically doing the same thing. It's just in another form. So I'll see you next week, and I pray that you will do some practice on each of the types of multiplication that we have done today.